Welcome to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. The Home of the Drowned is a powerful and heartbreaking account of what Indigenous resilience in Sweden means and what it costs. The novel by Sami journalist Elin Labba follows two generations of Sami women forced out of their traditional way of life as Sweden turned to hydroelectric dams to power its drive to modernization. It's a story with parallels for Indigenous people all over the world. Elin Labba joins us for our regular Native bookshelf. We're back after the news.
This is National Native News. I'm Jill Freitas. An Arizona tribe along the southern border has filed a lawsuit in federal court against the Department of Homeland Security. KJZZ's Gabriel Pietrasio has details.
The Whānaufa Nation has submitted an injunction to halt the Trump administration from looking to build a wall along its 62-mile boundary with Mexico. According to the complaint, the administration plans to solicit contracts for construction on sovereign lands without the tribe's consent.
We would prefer not to file this lawsuit and instead use these resources for our people.
That's Whānaufa Chairman Verlin Jose in a social media message. Here's Vice Chairwoman Carla Johnson.
The wall is a wasteful political gimmick. It will separate our families, desecrate our sacred sites and waters, and harm our natural environment.
In response to the legal filings, the Department of Homeland Security cites Mullen's Cherokee citizenship and commitment to tribal sovereignty, telling KJZZ the agency values its relationship with the Whānaufa Nation and remains focused on open communication and minimizing impacts. For National Native News, I'm Gabriel Pietrasio.
Last weekend, a Navajo Nation community near Page voted to oppose a controversial copper mine proposal. KNAW's Chris Clements reports.
The Copper Mine chapter voted 45-12 to adopt a resolution opposing Essential Minerals' exploration of a possible copper mine. The resolution also rescinded a policy put forward by the chapter back in 2005 that supported exploration of a separate copper mine. The resolution adopted on Sunday says back in 2005, the company looking into mining failed to fulfill its commitments. It adds that no mining company, like Essential Minerals, can use the 2005 policy to justify exploring a copper mine now. Tribal members say they're worried a copper mine would cause health and environmental issues in the community. Representatives of Essential Minerals previously told KNAU they want to build trust about the project, which they say is just being explored right now. For National Native News, I'm Chris Clements in Flagstaff.
The day after the season's first drift gillnet fishing opener, salmon remained top of mind for fishers of the Kuskokwim River. At Riverview Park in Bethel, community members gathered and filled plates of dried whitefish and grilled, fresh-caught fillets of king salmon. The second annual return of the salmon event was put on by Mother Kuskokwim Tribal Coalition, a grassroots organization opposing the proposed Donlin gold mine. Supporters of the mine point to the job prospects it would bring to locals in the region. Callista Corporation, the regional Native corporation who owns the subsurface rights to the proposed mine site, says that responsible development and subsistence can coexist. Others, like Mother Kuskokwim, say it's too risky. They argue that potential contamination from the mine could pose dire environmental impacts, namely for the region's salmon populations. Organizer Gloria Simeon says on the Kuskokwim, salmon is a mechanism for something bigger.
Fish camp is not an activity. Fish camp is the single most important time of families coming together with one purpose, and that's to get prepared for the winter.
She says the moments on display in a community event like this, children playing, babies having their first bites of fresh salmon of the season, that's what the Mother Kuskokwim advocates are trying to protect. This story was provided by KYUK's Samantha Watson. I'm Jill Freitas.
National Native News is produced by Koahnic Broadcast Corporation with funding by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Tribal Development Partners, helping tribes build toward their goals through 105L leasing and essential facility development, empowering sovereignty, strengthening community. More at tribaldevpartners.com, proud supporters of this show.
Support by Sonosky Chambers Law, championing tribal sovereignty and Native American rights since 1976. From opioids litigation to treaty rights to tribal self-governance. With offices in Washington, D.C., New Mexico, California, and Alaska. Sonosky Chambers Law.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
This is Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce. 2 generations of indigenous Sami women are forced from their homes by hydroelectric dam construction in northern Sweden in the new novel, The Home of the Drowned. It is a fictional account of real-world events by Sami journalist Elin on Labba. The family endures the crushing weight of witnessing their land and traditional practices disappear underwater from increasingly larger dams. She presents the story from the perspective of 13-year-old Inga, who gives an intimate account of the Sami people's struggle to adapt while navigating a government and society that treats them as second-class citizens. The book is based on the real displacement of Sami people that started in 1923 from land that is now submerged under one of Sweden's largest reservoirs. The Home of the Drowned is on our native bookshelf today, and you can join our conversation with author Elin on Labba by calling 1-800-996-2848. 1-800-996-2848. That is the number to join today's conversation. Joining us now on Zoom from Norway is Elin on Labba. She is a journalist and an author, and she is Sami. Elin Anna, hello and welcome to Native America Calling.
Hello. Kiitos. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on this show today. Now, your novel takes place in mid-20th century Sweden. It begins in the early 1940s. And as we said earlier, it focuses on a Sami family at a crossroads. What can you tell us about this setting and this time in Sweden's history and the country's regard for Sami people?
This is my... this is the story of my father's generations. So, and it's a very racist time globally. And in Sweden we have that racism is, the Sami people was really hit by that in our country. Or in our countries, not just in Sweden, but in all the Sami countries, as the Sami land is divided between Norway, Sweden, Finland, and also Russia, a smaller part of Russia. So, and you can say that it's a time where this racism is also joined by a very heavy industrialization of Sami land. So, and they are like married, this racism and this industrialization, I can't even pronounce it. So you come from a time where Sami people, as in many indigenous people, have been to boarding schools and have been forcibly removed and have been having the land divided by national borders and all that, and come into this time where you have the hydroelectric power dams being more and more of them on Sami lands, and forestry coming in and mining. So that is the time, and it goes from the 40s and up until when I was born in the 80s. So that's like the time. So it's 40 years of some history.
Mm-hmm. Covers a family over a couple of generations. Now, the book begins in a summer village. Can you describe a summer village in which Sami people would have lived in during this time for our listeners?
They are beautiful places. This village in the book, it's up in the mountains. So it's on the summer lands. And my people move, well, the reindeer herding, the nomadic Sami people move between the summer lands and the winter lands. And this summer village is up on the summer lands. So it's by a lake, and this used to be many small lakes, but it's transformed until what the people start to call the sea, because it becomes so big, this reservoir. And this lake is surrounded by very high mountains, which are like the perfect grazing land for the animals, for the reindeer, and glaciers, and places where you can pick berries. And it's a very old land, so you have like the graveyards, and you have your sacred places, and you have everything up there. And it's all put underwater and being drowned in the forest.
Your writing is so precise, and yet you're also very poetic when you describe the landscape and the environment with which these people live, especially with regard to these rising waters that are submerging the village. I want to know more about the characters, though, especially 13-year-old Inga, her family, and some of the other characters that are discussed and come into the book as well. Tell us about them.
Well, Inga, she's a teenager when we meet her the first time, and we will follow her, and she will be like middle-aged when we leave her. But in the beginning, she's her family has been through this before in the book, so you realize that this isn't the first time it happened, but it is for her. So we see the lake with her eyes, seeing it for the first time, coming closer and closer and closer, and she hasn't seen this before, the village being drowned, as her mother have, and her aunt as well. And she has the feeling that there's a lot of that she has some kind of her life under that lake, not just the village and her home, like that is like physically really under the water, but also her memories and her history, and maybe also her language. Her language starts to like go under that water and being more and more difficult for her to find. And they aren't really good at telling her things, and telling her what happened and why it came, who she is. So she's really a bit lost in the world. And she had this mother, Rauna, which she would maybe today say is some kind of an activist. So she becomes an activist, but she wouldn't have that word herself. And in the 40s, there wasn't really, you weren't talking about activism in that time. But Rauna, she is, and she's really angry with this happening, and she's really fed up, and she decided that she won't take it anymore. And so she don't really have time to be a mother, and Inga is really, really longing to have a mother and have a family and have like an ordinary life. Yeah, so she's a kind of very silent
Okay.
girl with a silent history.
And Inga her father is no longer living, and that's also part of the plot in her grieving. And even his grave that's part of the location that's submerged, and very mature in some ways, the character seems, but yet vulnerable, and definitely, as you described, needs that matronly figure. So her mother has experienced what has happened before with the flooding and the removal, and now she's going through this experience herself a generation later. What can readers take away from that in terms of this ongoing struggle that the Sami people face through the eyes of this particular family?
I think that you can see there are so many ways of handling it or not handling it, and not Inga, she just want to continue, and she just want to accept the fact of how it is and what's happening to them, and she just want to, if the state tell them to move, let's move, or if the state is doing this to them and drowning their village and submerging it, so that's, let it be. Whilst her mother, she's like, no, I won't take this. This is not going to happen once again. I'm not going to accept this. And I think you have that in every village. You have people that are being the one that are like opposing, like suddenly, like right in the beginning. And you have the people that are like struggling in other ways. So that there are so many ways to handle it but it's the same. I mean, they're both losing, and actually what you are losing is your relationships and your it's difficult to be a mother, and it's difficult to be a daughter, it's difficult to be a human being or a person for all of them in the family. And you have this Aunt Anne, because there's a family of 3 women, and you have the Aunt Anna that's Rauna's sister, and she can be really, really silent, but she can also be a really, really, really good storyteller, and you would never know before because she's just suddenly just bursting out and telling stories. And she's maybe the person that is holding this family together, even though you wouldn't say. And often I think that is, you have those people, they're not making a lot of noise and fuss, but they are the one like gluing and keeping the family together. And she's one of those. You can see that in reindeer herds, that you have those kind of reindeers also. The ones that you don't think are the important ones, but they often tend to be. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I really like your writing is because your characters, of course, they're living through this horrendous ordeal. Their lives are being just completely overwhelmed by the construction of this dam and their homes being destroyed. But yet at the same time, the relationships that you share with these family members, they're just very intimate, and just the way the characters interact with each other and their thoughts and how they have their dialogues, just beautiful, beautiful writing, and just great storytelling among just the human emotions that are on display, in addition to the larger theme of the books. I just want to compliment you on how much I enjoyed and appreciated that writing. Now, we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. And when we do, you're going to do a reading for our listeners. So let's go ahead and get that ready. And I'm looking forward to this as well. So listeners, we're going to come right back. And if you'd like to join our conversation today with Elin on Labba, you can do so by picking up your phone right now and calling us at 1-800-996-2848. The title of the book, The Home of the Drowned. Cherokee and Muskogee singer-songwriter Kaylin Faye channels the spirit of quiet, rural life in Oklahoma on her new album titled Garden. The songs are richly layered with warm acoustic instrumentation and lyricism centered on family and Cherokee culture. Faye is one of the talented Native songwriters we'll feature on our regular Native playlist. That's on the next Native America Calling.
Grand Canyon Conservancy fosters visitor engagement with the landscape through learning, discovery, and stewardship. The Grand Canyon Conservancy Field Institute provides immersive and educational adventures designed in partnership with Grand Canyon National Park, including day hikes for the family, once-in-a-lifetime backpacking trips, and art classes with expert instructors. More at grandcanyon.org. Grand Canyon Conservancy supports this show.
Thank you for listening to Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce, and we're talking with Sami journalist Elin Labba, who joins us from Norway today to talk about her new novel, The Home of the Drowned. It's a story about Sami displacement in the mid-20th century, told from the perspectives of a Sami mother and daughter. It just came out in the U.S., and you can join our discussion with comments or questions for the author by calling 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Elin, you're going to do a reading for us. And just to give our listeners a little bit of a heads up, this is going to be from the beginning of the book, I believe, chapter 1.
Yeah. The lake was in the Gorte. The bright blue door stood open, the color of its wood slats reflected in the water. Did the door move? Inga must have been mistaken. The wind had stilled under the midnight sun. The lake gleamed like butter, or maybe cod liver oil. Greasy, but ice cold. All melted together, the lake, the mountain, the village, and on the beach, which was no longer a beach, Inga stood in silence. She tried to speak, but the words would not come. Maybe the lake had swallowed them. It felt like they might be down there somewhere under the surface, reaching up for her. Next to Inga stood Rauna, clinging to a birch, and beyond Rauna was Aunt Anne, rocking back and forth on a stone. It looked like Anne might be swaying in the wind, but there was none, while above them 2 blue throats circled and screamed. Gee! Gee! Inga stared at the tuft in the lake, where a third little bird was still huddled in its nest, grayer, the tips of its wings brushing against the water. The lake had reached the Goate's window's beams, touching the peeling white paint. Rauna had scolded Inga when she picked flakes of it off with her nails. What was happening to those flakes of paint beneath the water? Did the bits stick better when wet, or did they peel off immediately? On the grass-covered walls of the Gote, the flowers were waiting their turn. It was so quiet, there in the midst of it all. Inga squatted down and lifted a porcelain cup out of the lake. Pink roses stood frozen on the side of the thin white cup, like flowers surprised by snow. The porcelain was ice cold. Inga didn't recognize it. It wasn't theirs. She lay in the moss and was about to get up when Rauna shouted. Inga lost her balance, but managed not to fall. Njauri Hengela, her mother screamed. The devil's angels! You could have waited. Rauna roared at the heavy water. How could you do this again? She went on shouting something that Inga didn't understand. The scream rose from below, up through the moss and into her legs. It spun like grass around her ankles, her shoe bands, pulling the woven threads tight, strangling the blood. Inga had heard her mother angry, but never like this. Cautiously, Anne reached out and touched her sister's waist. There, she soothed Rauna. She, who never touched anyone, held her little big sister. Inga backed away from them both, stumbled over a bright yellow woolen blanket lying halfway in the water. Purple midsummer flowers bloomed all over it. Warm colors. It was the middle of the night, but the sun shone with a golden light. Drowned plants glittered beneath it. Mountain birches, grass. Everything looked brighter under the water than on land.
Beautiful reading. Absolutely beautiful. For someone who says you don't read in English very much, you sure surprise me. You sound fantastic. Wonderful. Yeah. For our listeners who might not have read the book yet, Goati, the peat moss structure, the homes. Give us some more descriptive elements to what those homes are like and how they're being impacted in the book.
I'm raised in one of those, and I love them a lot, which you can see in the book because it's a lot about this building. So you like in my family we moved with a reindeer, and we have 2 traditional houses. We have the Labba, which is like a tipi kind of, like a movable tent where you can have fire in it, and then you have this Leuniko, it's called in Sami, which is like more it's actually like a house, but it's round, and you put this, you say turf, you put you dress it like in grass and in I can't really talk about this in English, but it's a round house. A beautiful round house, and nowadays you have, instead of, as you don't have an open fire, you have like a window up in the top, so you can have the sun like shine down on you, and it has like windows and floor and everything, so it's like kind of a really, really small but round house, a wonderful round house. So they live in this, and this is the village. The village is like full of these kind of houses and these kind of buildings, and they are not assumed to be houses at all by the Swedish government, and that is why you can like just put it underwater, because it's not like a village should be. A village should have like um, ordinary Swedish houses with fences and all that. It's like so like a kind of more Western style of houses. So it wasn't even like looked upon as a village. Yeah.
These dwellings they sound a little bit like an earth lodge, like some tribes in the United States lived in traditionally.
I guess.
Tell us more about the dam. Construction began in the early 1920s, and this company that's running the whole project, and of course they have approval from the government to pretty much do what they want to do, to run this dam and build it the way they want to build it, regardless of the impacts. Talk more about that, please.
Yeah, and it was it started in the 20s and then it continued. So in my village where I come from, we talk about it like the first and the second, the third and the fourth time. So it was like happened fourth time, as in the book, and the last time was in the 70s. And it was like a very big difference between if you were a Sami indigenous person, you didn't get anything back because you were not like you couldn't own your land as a Sami person, so you didn't have paper on your land, and that's for you didn't get anything when they just drowned your villages because you weren't like supposed to have land, or you couldn't have it. So in that sense, it wasn't. You could like get more. How do you say that when you get money back from the state?
Like reparations, perhaps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could have that if you were a Swedish person, but you couldn't as a Sami because a Swedish person could actually have paper on the land and a Sami person couldn't. Which made it really like that it's. I mean, it affected a lot of people, but as a Sami person, it also affected you economically because you would never get anything for it, and you also have this sense in Sweden that as the Sami people were nomadic people, you could move them because they were still we were like moving with our reindeers, so you could also move us. So that was like the big force like behind the forced relocations, that you weren't looked upon as people belonging to the land or belonging to the state, which is very when you know indigenous culture and how much you're tied to the land and how much it means. It's kind of absurd that you were like that you had this idea. Yeah,
it really is. And the government's viewpoint with these people, and that they weren't worthy, they really couldn't live in a permanent type of dwelling. They were, in their view, they could only be nomadic. I mean, people might use the term second-class status, but it was below that. I wouldn't even say second-class status. It was, it was almost like inhuman treatment is how I would describe it in many ways. Yeah. So Inga's mother, let's talk a little bit more about her, because she's very strong, very determined. And an interesting part of the book is when she calls the press to bring awareness to the injustice that her people are facing. And as a journalist, I think you probably understand both sides of this scenario. What can you tell us about this interaction with the press and how they get involved?
Yeah, she has decided she will do everything she can in her power to get a house. So that is like her obsession. It becomes like she, as a homeless person, when you lost your home so many times, you get really, really, that idea of the home is like everything for her. So that's like her dream, and it's everything. And she figures that just if people get to know about our history and how it is, and get to know the facts, that it will change. The thing is that they don't know. So she calls the press, and I actually found a newspaper with an article exactly like this with my family's my father's family when they were in the newspaper. So it's kind of actually just was how it was in that article. So I didn't make it up, but I did make the things about her feelings about it. I have well, it's like that is a novel, but a lot of the things that they are saying, and it's come from this article, that I found. And you, as this is in the 40s and the 50s, so newspapers have been like a big source for me, where I could go and see what people were saying, and what also what they were talking, how they were talking about the Sami people. So these quotes about like the Sami people, well, being what you say, this second-class member, is actually from the newspapers back from that time, and those are so brutal. So you don't need to be a novelist. You can just like use the truth and use what they actually said in that time, and that would be more than fiction. It makes I would never be able to make that up. Yeah. So she wants she has this hope that this will change everything. Well, but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Now, the book is fiction, but it is based on real Sami history. Did Sami people protest or fight back like they do in your book?
I think they always have. I think I wouldn't be sitting here if they didn't. But I think you can't look at it like as protests as I think we think about protests and demonstrations today, where you have a lot of people coming and with signs and shouting and like being very. But you have always been like resisting in many different ways. And Rauna, she's resisting in a very like obvious way, but there are other people in the village that are like also resisting, but in more quietly. And that kind of quiet resistance, I think we know in Sápmi very, very well. We're really, really good on that one. And we haven't always been good on that more loud noise-making resistance. But we have become better on that one as well. So in the book you have both, and in the book you have kind of a time that I was fascinated by, the time when you learn to resist, when you learn to be like in because they're not really good at it in the beginning. They don't really know how to resist. They haven't been telling it like out loud. And how do you do that when you're not used to hear your voice? You're not used to. You're like clumsy and a bit struggling to find your voice when you have been silent for so long, such a long time. So they are resisting, but not really succeeding. So I wanted to write that, the resistance that didn't really succeed, but it was nevertheless very, very important for them as a people doing it.
Of the main characters, the main female characters in the book, Inga, her mother, and her aunt, who do you relate to the most on a personal level?
I thought Rauna is actually my great grandmother. Her name was Risten, and she was a very angry woman. I heard, so I wanted to write this very, very angry woman. And Inga, she has a lot of my childhood memories from this lake, as I have been living by this lake myself and had my childhood by this big reservoir. So she has a lot of those. The wonderings what lake is hiding, and the longing to know what is beneath that water, and wondering what she could have been and what she could have had with other circumstances. So I think actually I have, and I thought that maybe I wasn't as angry as Rauna, but I realized after writing the book that maybe I was, because like the anger just came afterwards. While you're writing a book, you're like being a kind of instrumental. I don't know if I say that, but if you and a lot of feelings actually come afterwards when you're finished and start to talk about it and meet people that have read it, and people affected by the story and have come with the same kind of stories.
Are you still angry?
I almost love Anne the most, the aunt. I love her a lot. She's like, and she's really based on a true person. Um, in many ways, and I like her that she's, and I like that they have this. What I can see in many Sami women, they're really, really, really strong, and they can do everything. They fish and they drive boats and they are reindeer herders and they're making everything and they manage. But at the same time, they're really like leaves sometimes. So they have this. They can be really, really sensitive and super, super strong in the same way, in the same breath.
I like the character of the aunt as well, and I think she's a very good balance to the mother because she brings that a little bit of a softer side. And I know they don't always get along. There's a little bit of conflict there. I think because they have such different worldviews and such a different perspective on what's happening to them. But they definitely, like I said, you just really create really compelling characters, and the way you write so that they interact it really engages a reader. So, we're going to have to take another break. We'll come back, and I want to talk a lot more about the book and about your writing and just more about the Sami people and what life is like today and how it correlates to the fictional history that you present in your book. So listeners who would like to join the conversation, please give us a call right now, 1-800-996-2848. That number again is 1-800-996-2848. We're talking about the new novel, The Home of the Drowned.
Support from Davis Keelan Law Firm, a New Mexico firm standing with Native families suffering catastrophic loss. When tragedy strikes Indian country, Davis Keelan fights to restore stability, dignity, and justice, bringing a voice to Native families and communities for 20 years. More information, daviskeelan.com.
Need an actionable plan to achieve your goals? Kaufman & Associates strengthens Native organizations through culturally grounded strategic planning. More at kaufmaninc.com, KAUFFMANINC.com.
We're glad you're with us today on Native America Calling. I'm Sean Spruce, your host. The Home of the Drowned is the second book by Sami journalist Elin Labba. The novel follows a Sami family who are displaced from their traditional homeland by hydroelectric dam construction in northern Sweden. You can join our conversation today by calling us at 1-800-996-2848. That number is also 1-800-99-NATIVE. Still plenty of time if you would like to join this conversation. Just pick up your phone, 1-800-99-NATIVE. That is the number to call. Elin, another theme in the book that I think is really, really timely with regard to what we are experiencing now here in the United States and other parts of the world, in Northern Europe as well, is this whole issue of energy independence. What does that mean? What does it look like? And at one point in the book, there's a protest, and someone from this company that's building the dam says, this is about energy independence, and they make that comment to the Sami protesters. How do you think readers today resonate with that phrase?
Well, I think we always hope that things are changing, and then you realize that things haven't changed at all. We're just standing on the same spot still. And when I was writing, I was reading a lot of documents from the 60s and from the 50s, and I realized that I could actually swap them. I could take like modern quotes from like 3 years ago and 4 years ago, 2 years ago, and that wouldn't like make any difference because they were the same, and they were saying the same things. The only thing that actually changed was that back in the days, in the 60s, they were talking about development, that the Sami people were like standing against Sweden and development, that you were like in the middle. You can't be the way of the development. And today you're not using that word. You're using this how to say that? This green I don't know the word. In Swedish it's omställning, which means like the transition, the green transition. You're in the way of
Okay.
transition. But as a Sami people, you shouldn't be in the way of transition. You should move from your land because you're standing in the way of the green transition. But that's the only thing that actually changed. Otherwise, the words are the same and the politics are. So we see a really, really big drive now coming for the mountains we had left and the forests that we had left and the and also I think that people have been thinking that these hydropower dams that was like an epoch that they wouldn't come back, that you have the dams that you have and the reservoirs that we have, but they wouldn't be more. And I think we're not as sure of on that either, that they were the last. So yeah, I didn't think of it as a book that would be. I thought about it as a book about my family history, but it's it is actually a book that is very like it's written for our days and these times. But that wasn't what I was looking for or wanting to do. I mean, that's the last thing you want to do.
Mm-hmm. As you shared in the book, Sami people were offered compensation. What was the real life outcome of that policy?
What compensation do you refer to in the end of the book?
Well, there's one point towards the end of the book where it is revealed that if people didn't own any land, they had to pay tax on what was referred to as a subsidy, and none of the people in the village knew that, and here they end up in arrears because of having to pay tax on what was supposed to be, like we said earlier, compensation or reparations, what have you. But it would just, again, like there's a whole pivotal moment early in the book when they get a letter and they don't know how to read the letter, and they have to take the letter to someone who explains what it means, and they always think bad news comes in the form of letters, so they're very hesitant as well. So, yeah.
We always have in every part of the modern Sami history, you have that kind of all that power that's being over you, and you can't even understand it because it's like it's never translated and it's never in your language and it's never. As my grandfather, who lived by a lake like the one in the book, he had Sami as his first language, and Finnish was actually his second language, and Norwegian was his third language, and Swedish, which was the land he was living in, was his fourth language. As we are living in this kind of borderland with a lot of languages, and people have been moving a lot, so they know a lot of languages, which I also wanted to reflect in the language in the book, that there are many languages that they have in your life. So you always have this kind of and I mean, they have been using that as well, that people couldn't even understand the decisions that they took, and those were decisions like changing your life completely, and you didn't even know the details of them. So it's very, I think sometimes that kind of language power that they have been using has been like the most brutal one, the most devastating one. You don't even understand what's coming and why it's happening, and which also makes it difficult to speak about it in afterwards with your children and with your grandchildren, because what actually happened, you don't know, and why it happened, and why did this happen to us, that people are a bit of ashamed of not having the words for it, and the words were never given to them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are several words in the book that aren't translated into English, and this is the English version we're talking about, of course. Why was it important for you and your translator as well, Elizabeth Clark Wessel, to leave those words in their original form?
Well, I had a hope or a dream that as a reader you will read it in English, but you still have the sense of reading it in Sami. That you have the sense of the Sami tone and sound in the text, and can hear kind of that sound, even though you don't know the language. But also that this is where I come from, there are like, people just having one language. The Sami people that still speak Sami, which are not very many, they are speaking a Sami with a lot of Swedish words if you live on the Swedish side of Sápmi, and Norwegian words if you live on the Norwegian side. So you have a Sami language that is really affected by the majority language. And the other way around, if you speak Swedish, you have a lot of Sami words because you still live a traditional life where the Swedish language will never have all those words that you need for the reindeer, for instance, and the snow and the landscape. And the Sami, it's a very rich indigenous language in that sense. So you have a Swedish which is mixed up with Sami. And that is how I'm raised, and had been my soundtrack of my life. And I wanted it to be in the book. It would be really, for me, really, really strange to write a book with just one language.
Sure.
And this can be kind of annoying for Swedish people, or like majority people, that because they're very used to having one language and having their language and having everything like that they are to understand everything. And I think as a minority person, you're like, we talked about it earlier on, that you're really used to not always understanding people. Things are never like explained in your language, and
right,
and you're often guessing, and you
Sure.
are often using a lot of words, and you're like a kind of flexible. Also, it makes you flexible in your language towards other languages as well. You can like stretch your ears, and I think we're really used to that. So I wanted that to be in the book as well. This language reality that we have. And the Sami languages, so I love it. And I have been taking it back, so it's kind of a love story for me. That I didn't speak as a child, and I took it back, and that has been like the biggest struggle I will ever have made. So I wanted it to. I'm so very much in love with it. So it's just like and when I read, I can feel that, because when I come to those words, I'm like, they're like those kind of islands that you find like in a swamp, that you can just go to that word and find some peace, and then you can continue to the other words. So they're like places of power for me in the book.
Elin, I have a young daughter, and she's a big fan of Disney princess movies. And reading the book, I immediately thought of Frozen 2, and I Googled it, and sure enough, the tribe that is presented in Frozen 2, they're actually based on Sami people. And I read that for that movie, there was some consultation with the Sami Council. And I would just like to get your take on what you think of Frozen 2 and the consultation. As a Native American man, I know what it's like to see my culture and my people presented by Hollywood and the entertainment industry, and I'd like to get your thoughts as well.
I also have a daughter, and she loves Frozen too, so that's my take on it.
Okay.
It's like she adores it. And it has also been, I think it's the only Disney film that has been made in Sami, in our language, which makes it possible for Sami kids to watch in their own mother tongue, and that is beautiful. We don't have many films that are like big films, and you can go to a cinema and see it in your own language. So with that film, what I know of, they made a really, really good job, and they made it in the Sami language, and they were, we have Sami singers that have been making and singing the songs in Sami, and the kids singing them now. So I think it was a good production from a Sami sense, and that they were respectful, which isn't always the case. But in this case, what I know of, but I also want to point out that I'm not an expert, and I'm not working with the films, but I know that they have been working closely with the Sami Council and the Sami, and also using, I think, Sami music and Sami artists and musicians in the film. But okay. I won't say too much because I don't really.
Sure.
But my daughter sits as well.
You're working on another writing project. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I have two. One is a non-fiction book as my first book with interviews, and interviews is my go-to. That's why I find my inspiration. And so I interview elder Sami people about language right now. So it's about this taking language back, losing language. What does it make to you? Who are you when you lose your language? But also who do you become when you take it back? But based on, I'm using interviews to understand that language losing epoch that we had that have been so devastating for the Sami people. And I'm writing a new novel also about my grandmother's forest Sami history. So you have reindeer herding people as my family that are in the mountains, as in the book. They are moving up to the mountains. But you also have Sami people that are just herding their animals in the forest and never moving, making those long moves up to the mountains. And that have been really, we have a really, really extensive and big forestry industry in Sweden, and my grandmother's family has been really, really affected by that and lost their land to the forest companies. So it has some kind of connections to this, the home of the drowned as well. But it's not water this time. There are a lot of trees. But also like beliefs tied to trees and indigenous knowledge of trees and the holiness of trees and forests. Yeah. I haven't really finished this, but this is what I want to do at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've won many of Sweden's top prizes for your nonfiction work, and of course, you are a journalist by trade. Was it difficult for you to make the transition to writing fiction and novels specifically? And what's that process like for you?
A bit, actually. I would like to say that it was easy, that I was like made to write a novel, but I struggled a lot with like daring to for instance, my family, my true family, was forcibly removed, and that is what I'm writing about in my first book, The Rocks Will Echo Our Sorrow. And they were moved to this hydropower big reservoir, so they were actually, that was like the true story. And it took me a while to realize that in the novel, they didn't have to have that story of being forcibly removed from their homelands to this lake. But I was in the beginning I was but this happened, it had to be like that. And it took me some time to be free, I think. But when I started to be free, was I also kind of find I have been working a lot with people that are really, really good storytellers, and been taping them and listening to them again. And that has been like a very big school for me, like my university. And I think that I realized when I was writing the novel that I just actually had to be like losing the grip a bit from the journalism and letting that journalist go to and be more with those storytellers that I have been working with so much, and trying to be more like them. And when I can't really say when it happened, but finally it did happen. And okay. I got closer to their way of telling stories, but they are a bit alike. They're not really. I mean, my first book is non-fiction book, is a book that goes a bit towards a novel when it comes to the way of how it's told. And the home of the drowned is really...
Elin, Anna, we're out of time. We're going to have to wrap up our conversation today, but I want to thank you very much. It's been a wonderful hour spent with you. So again, for our listeners, Elin Anna Labba is our author today, and the book is titled The Home of the Drowned. Join us again tomorrow as we welcome Cherokee and Muskogee singer-songwriter Kaylin Faye to add to our Native playlist. I'm Sean Spruce. You've been listening to the one, the only Native America Calling.
Grand Canyon Conservancy fosters visitor engagement with the landscape through learning, discovery, and stewardship. The Grand Canyon Conservancy Field Institute provides immersive and educational adventures designed in partnership with Grand Canyon National Park, including day hikes for the family, once-in-a-lifetime backpacking trips, and art classes with expert instructors. More at grandcanyon.org. Grand Canyon Conservancy supports this show. Who protects Indian country? Amerind does. As the only 100% tribally owned insurance carrier, Amerind helps strengthen tribal communities by providing reliable insurance coverage and keeping dollars in Indian country. From property and liability to commercial auto and tribal workers' compensation, Amerind is here to protect what matters. Celebrating 40 years of serving Indian country. Learn more at amerind.com. That's AMERIND.com.
Native America Calling is produced in the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios in Albuquerque, New Mexico by Quantic Broadcast Corporation, a Native nonprofit media organization. Funding is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with support from the Public Radio Satellite Service. Music is by Brent Michael Davids. Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.